and welcome to the show for all of us. I'm Sarah Moran. I'm a health and wellness, well-being, self-care focused journalist and educator, and I appreciate you joining me today. I'm very excited to share with you today one of my favorite tools or practices for feeling better, for relieving stress, working with big emotions, and also working with things that feel stuck, spinning or repeating thoughts, all of that. And I love this practice because it is super, super easy. Anybody can learn to do it. Even really young children can start to learn to do this on their own. Even once you get it down, and so it's really an empowering practice, and it's also really well studied and shown to be effective for a wide range of situations and conditions. And the practice is called tapping, or also known as EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And there are actually more than 300 research studies, which are published in peer reviewed publications, showing the effectiveness of tapping. And one of the ways that it works is it's kind of working with the amygdala, which is kind of the emotional control or processing center in the brain. And it's very connected to your fight or flight response, your stress response. So people sometimes talk about the amygdala as like an alarm bell or an alarm system. And what tapping does is it helps turn that off or kind of calm that down. And so research has really clearly shown in randomized controlled trials that tapping is effective for anxiety, depression, phobias, PTSD, also pain, insomnia, and what are referred to as autoimmune conditions. And it's also effective for improving different like biological markers of stress. Tapping is also shown to help with sleep quality, weight, food cravings, resting heart rate, immunity, and blood pressure. Okay, so what is tapping? I'll give you just a little bit of background here that ultimately the roots are in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Traditional Chinese medicine is thousands of years old and is an incredible, comprehensive ancient wisdom and science, that where they really understood the interplay of the body, the mind, and the energy, and they understood the energetic pathways of the body, known as meridians, and then specific points as well. And acupuncture is not only this incredible ancient wisdom and science, but it is very well documented through today's modern science as well. So much so that insurance covers many conditions for acupuncture at this point. Okay, so the roots really of tapping come from that traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. And then in the 60s and 70s, there were some experts in psychiatry and psychology who were especially focused on the connection between emotions and the body and these different energy centers in the body, and they kind of helped create and evolve tapping into what it is today. And so tapping is one form of somatic therapy. And what that is, somatic therapies are working with the body and how emotions are sort of stored in and housed in the body, how they affect, one another. And somatic therapies kind of go into the body to work with that, to help kind of access and release and heal thoughts, emotions, trauma in different patterns. Um, and so examples of other somatic therapies are like EMDR, acupressure, hypnosis, breath work, even massage. And tapping or EFT is also sometimes called under the umbrella of energy psychology because it is working within the energy system as well, to work with certain emotions. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do tapping later on, and then, lead you to some more resources if you want to dive into it more. But I do want to share with you a handful of studies to highlight how effective it can be for a range of things. So first, there's a study published by the American Psychological Association, the APA, and it showed that tapping led to a 43% reduction in cortisol. Now, cortisol is a stress hormone. It's one of the main stress hormones, and it can create a lot of problems in the body when it's ongoing, like when we're under a continual state of stress. So, when there's a lot of cortisol running, we can have issues with metabolism, blood sugar, blood pressure. Chronically high levels can lead to inflammation, like an inappropriate inflammatory response. So, having a 43% reduction in cortisol through this very simple practice is huge. Okay, so the second study I want to highlight is one with veterans with PTSD. And in this study, after 6 weeks of working with tapping, they experienced a 90% drop in symptoms to where that 90% was no longer considered as having PTSD. And most of them also remained in remission after that 6 week period. So at 3 months, 86% were still in remission. And at 6 months, 80% were still in remission. Now, comparing that tapping group, who again showed a 90% drop in their symptoms, the standard care group had a 4% drop. So hugely effective to have the tapping in there. And there are a lot of studies involving veterans and tapping, and also, like trauma, PTSD, and tapping. And I think that says a lot because this is not your garden variety challenge. This is pretty significant, severe stuff that we're working with. And these studies are showing that, as simple as it is, tapping helps with these kind of situations. Okay, a third study I want to share with you showed that tapping positively influenced gene expression for 72 genes. And it basically upregulated or created a positive movement in genes related to immunity, and it downregulated those related to inflammation. So there were actually positive changes that related to cancer, metabolism, insulin, infection and viruses, fertility, the neurons, cell membranes, and brain matter, among others. So that's a big one, showing you can actually change your genes in a positive way through tapping. And then the fourth one I want to mention was about food cravings. And this was a small study, but I think it's really neat because you can actually, go in and see. They took an MRI of people who were struggling with weight and food cravings. So they took an MRI image showing those people images of like high calorie, low nutrition value, fast food, and so on. And you could see that certain parts of the brain lit up, kind of that related to the sense of having a craving. And then they did, went through the tapping practice through the study. And then at the end of the study period, they took MRI images again and showed those same participants' images. And the degree to which the spots in the brain lit up was reduced or completely non existent for the participants. And that also corresponded with them in their experience of not having that kind of craving anymore. And so it's kind of fun. In some of these tapping studies, you can actually see through brain imaging that it is changing things in the brain. There is also, number 5, I want to share with you a meta-analysis, so collection of 14 studies about tapping and anxiety. And they basically looked at all of those studies and said that they showed a significant decrease in anxiety scores. And I've seen studies about tapping about a number of things that are sometimes specific. So, for example, tapping before a procedure, before public speaking, and also for test anxiety. And then also, there's studies that just talk about tapping and general anxiety, and they're all really positive. And then last, I want to share with you the meta analysis that was about tapping and depression. This was looking at 18 random controlled trials, and it showed a significant overall effect on depression through tapping. So, those are the pieces of research I wanted to share. There's so much more, but the point is, you guys, this is really powerful and something you can do on your own anytime. There are no side effects, it's safe, it doesn't cost you anything. And I'm just excited to kind of share it with more people. Like I said, it's really helpful for those strong emotions, those repeating kind of cycles of thoughts and emotions. It's working on multiple levels: the mind, the body, the energy center. These kinds of practices are the frontier in my mind. And we are seeing more and more therapists and people working in mental health who are bringing in these sorts of somatic therapies or the energy type of practices because they really work, and it's often faster, it's effective, it creates lasting changes, it can dissolve and shift patterns. Really, really powerful. And this is something where, again, you can use it in these acute situations, like something specific happens, like somebody says something and that's disrespectful or rude, and it makes you mad and makes you sad, or whatever. Or you hear about something that's distressing or disturbing, and you kind of feel this like wave of shock through your system. Or there's something that happened that you just kind of can't get off your mind. It's helpful for all these kinds of things. And then also for those ongoing issues of, I'm dealing with this chronic health condition, or, oh, I always have these headaches, or I'm so frustrated with this person in this particular relationship in my life, whatever it may be. I also wanted to mention, I've had a lot of people sharing with me recently that they want to meditate. Maybe they used to and they want to get back into it, or they'd like to start, or they've kind of been trying or dabbling around, and they're feeling frustrated with it. And kind of like they're feeling like, I can't do it. I really want to meditate and I just can't do it. I can't focus right now. I can't quiet my mind. I can't calm down enough to do it. I'm hearing this from multiple people. And so, what I say to them usually is, well, maybe set aside the meditation for now and try something like tapping. Because I suspect that what might be happening when people are telling me this is relates to what I shared in my last episode. I think that was episode 4, A New Look at Emotions, where what's happening is sometimes there's just a lot of, emotions are a form of energy. And sometimes there's just a lot of emotions still running and kind of circulating in our being, our bodies, our minds, our whole being. And so when we try to just have quiet or space, then we just notice all this stuff running. And that can lead to more frustration or a harder time creating space. And so my sense is, in that sort of situation, what needs to happen is that movement step, like the energy, that emotion needs to be moved out first. And there's a number of ways to do that. But for today's point, I'm focusing on the fact that tapping is a way to move that out, because as you tap on these specific points in the body that I'll show you later, you are actually kind of dissolving and accessing the emotion. And so it's a great way to clear that out. And so I encourage people, when they're saying, I want to meditate, but I can't right now, just maybe drop it for a while and try tapping instead, or some other movement. Um, or try tapping first. So, like, maybe take 5 minutes to do some tapping and then try meditating for 3 minutes. That's an awesome start. And it's really just about getting in a habit. But just understanding, having that understanding and also compassion with yourself. Like, if I'm having a hard time quieting my mind, that's okay. There's just something that needs to kind of come out first, maybe, and then I can go to that step later. And the thing about tapping is it's just a really healthy, constructive, and lasting way to move some of that out. Okay, so I am finally going to get to demonstrating what I am talking about. And I think I'll describe the steps to you, and then I will actually show you. If you're watching the video, you can see what I'm doing. And if you're listening to the audio, I'm going to just kind of describe where I'm tapping, because all you're doing is literally tapping on specific points in the body. But here are the steps. Okay. So the first step is you kind of check in. What am I feeling? What do I want to work with? What's the issue? And maybe where do I feel it in my body? Um, and then the second step is you would rate that from a 0 to 10, like what's the intensity, with 10 being the highest, most intense kind of feeling. And then the third step is you kind of create a statement where here's the format of the statement. It's called the setup statement. And it goes, even though, and then you kind of fill in the blank with your issue or concern. And then you end with, I still completely accept and approve of myself. Or you could say something like, I still deeply love and approve of myself. And I'm just going to pause on this one because this also relates to what I was sharing about healthy emotions. It's just sort of ingrained in the tapping format, which is, I think, why it's so effective. But what's important here is that, first of all, we checked in to notice the emotion. So we have awareness already. We have awareness. This is an issue. This is a concern. This is something bothering me. So we've brought awareness to it. And then that phrase of, even though, whatever the thing, even though I'm so mad about this, even though I'm feeling sad, even though I'm overwhelmed, whatever. And then we say, I still deeply love and approve of myself. There, we're getting at a really important piece, which is that we are not judging ourselves for having emotions, or in other words, we're not judging ourselves for being human. And we're showing acceptance of the fact that this is how you feel. And as I talked about in my last episode, A New Look at Emotions, what can happen is that, we have an emotion or feeling or response, and then we layer on top of it feeling bad about the fact that we have an emotion or a feeling. And that's really not healthy at all. And so I love that through the tapping process, we are kind of getting at all that in this really short way. And so yeah, I just wanted to stop and highlight that. And this setup statement can be anything at all. Even though I feel bad about myself, I'm so nervous about this presentation, I'm worried about paying the bills, I feel like I just made a huge mistake, I feel ashamed, I'm nervous about this conversation, that thing she said really bothered me and hurt my feelings, or I don't know what to do about this situation, or I'm tired of this pain in my back, or I'm scared about what's happening next. I'm upset with myself because of X, Y, and Z. I keep doing the same thing over and over, whatever it is. Those are just some examples. And then what you do is you say that statement 3 times, and then you're going to tap through the points I'll show you, hitting them about 7 times in each spot and for a few rounds. So again, this only takes a few minutes, and then you check back in. How are you feeling on a scale of 0 to 10? And just see where are you at. Did that change the meter at all? And then you can go back to it later or do a few more rounds if you have the time for it, and just repeat as needed. And then one last little thing, I sometimes this isn't necessary, but it can be nice to just go through the tapping one more time at the end with including some kind of positive or affirmative statements too. So that could be like, even though I'm so overwhelmed right now, I know that this feeling will pass. I'm so overwhelmed, but I've been here before and I know I can handle it. Or I feel overloaded right now, but I'm just going to take things one step at a time. So you can find a way to kind of weave in some affirmations too if you want. That's just kind of like bonus. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate. And so let's see here. Let's say our setup statement is, even though I feel so scared about what's happening, let's say that's what it is. And let's say I rate it as an 8. I feel so scared about what's happening. Now I'm going to describe again, but I'm going to take my, it doesn't matter which hand, but in this case, I'm going to take my right hand and with my left-handed fingers, I'm going to tap on the side of the hand, so like below the pinky, and I'm going to tap on that while saying 3 times, even though I'm so scared about what's going on, I still deeply love and approve of myself. So I'd say that 3 times. And then I would move through the points, continuing to say it. So the first point, and by the way, you can do this just on one side of the body. I tend to do it on both. The first point is on the inside of the eyebrow, inside of each eyebrow. So I'd say, I'm so scared. And then the next point is on the outer kind of bone of the outside edges of the eye. I don't know what to do. Below the eyes is the next point. I feel worried. We can kind of change it a little bit, as we go. You just say whatever comes up. And then we're going to move to the point beneath the nose and above the lip. And then the next point is on the chin. I feel so scared. And then we're going to go down to just below the collarbone. And it's kind of the inner edges of the collarbone and down a little bit. And by the way, I'm going to tell you about where you can find images online to show you where these points are. And then you're going to go to the center of the chest. I feel so scared. And then you go to the the edges of the body, like the side seam, maybe 4 inches or so below the underarm. I feel worried, and you can kind of say specifically what you're worried about. And then last we come to the top of the head and kind of the very center and top of the head. And so that was one round, and you can see that doesn't take very long. And I would go through it a second time, and I would go through it a third time, hitting on all those points, repeating my setup statement. And then I would check in or keep going if it feels good. I mean, if you have more time, do it for longer by all means. I think you'll reap more benefits. The other thing that I want to say about this is, as you go along, what you say might evolve and change. And that is great because that means you're kind of accessing the other things that are related. And that helps you get to all the core issues that are kind of tied into something. And you also might start to cry, which is great, because then you really hit on the root of something. And crying is generally a very positive thing. It means that you've accessed something and you're letting it come up to be healed. Instead of it being like trapped in the body, it's coming up and out and in a positive, healthy context where it can just be released. So instead of holding that in your body and being weighed down by it, now you're letting it out. So don't be afraid of tears. Generally, they're very helpful and healing and a great sign that you really hit on something. And sometimes as you're going along, so let's say there's a small thing, somebody said something to you and it really hurt your feelings and it made you mad and it made you feel embarrassed. Let's say, you recognize there's multiple things going on. So you're kind of, as you're tapping, you're addressing all those different emotions. And maybe this thing seems like not a big deal to most people, but it's really bothering you. And maybe as you go along, you recognize, oh, okay, there's these deeper issues, why that's bothering me. And so it can kind of evolve. And then you're doing this deep healing that helps with multiple different things. You're getting really down to the crux of it. So just let yourself kind of say what you want to say and let it evolve and change as you go through it. If you have more time to work with it, you can get really far on multiple things. And then the other thing I would say is, if something comes up or something's really running and bothering you and repeating, or throughout your day something happens and it's just kind of bugging you, um, the nice thing about tapping is you can go, take a break, take a bathroom break, and take a few minutes to do some rounds in the bathroom. Or take a little break to your car and, go out to the car and take some time there. Um, you can even tap just on that side of the hand that I showed you below the pinky. Like you can do that under a desk or something, and that point alone is actually very powerful. And so if you're in public and you're not like, "Ooh, I'm gonna do all my tapping on my face," right? In public, probably not gonna do that. So you can always just tap on that side of the hand, kind of discreetly in your lap or under your desk. Even if you're in a conversation with somebody you trust, like let's say you're really venting to a friend and it's somebody who, you can again trust, to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna tap on my hand while I'm talking to you. Because that's gonna help dissolve it faster. So, think about that as another little option. Okay, so, but then also I would encourage trying it as a routine. And again, just start with something like 5 minutes. Most routines work best when we do them at the same time every day, and, you know, kind of set yourself a goal of doing it for several weeks, because then it becomes second nature and you find, oh, I feel better, and you don't need to use the self-discipline so much anymore to keep the habit. But like doing it when you first wake up or right before bed is great. Help clear stuff out to help you sleep better. If you find that you're having trouble sleeping or you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep, you can even tap on that. Like, I can't sleep. I'm just laying here. It's frustrating, Or if your thoughts start going, your mind starts going, and you're worrying about something in the middle of the night, you can just go ahead. You might as well just tap on it while you're worrying about it. And you can say the things out loud or whatever, just go through the steps, and that could, help you do some good healing work and make some progress, as long as you're up in the middle of the night. So that's another little idea. And then I do want to say, this is not meant to like replace if you are somebody who would really benefit from professional support with mental health. And if you're going to be working with something that's really intense, you might want to be working on tapping with a professional who can just be there with you to support you as you talk through something really challenging, because it can bring up a lot. These emotions and memories and so on are stored in the body. And so when we're first kind of accessing them or bringing them up for healing, it's very beneficial to be working with somebody who is a professional. Um, and the last thing I'll say is sometimes there's people who don't like certain practices. And I really invite people to try this one because it is so easy and so effective. But if it's not your thing, that's okay too. Don't worry about it. For some people, different things are a match, and that's okay. So, all right, I want to give you a little send off for more information, if you want to dive into this some more. So, there's two places that I'd kind of recommend. One is called the Tapping Solution. They have a website with a lot of great information. They have videos showing you how to tap, and they also have an app which is free. And then there's like a more you can access if you pay to use that. And then Nick Ortner, who started the Tapping Solution, has books you can buy or get at the library as well. They have a lot of great stuff on their website. And then the Tapping Solution also has a foundation, which has done a lot of great work with schools. And so they have a program that helps support the teachers and the staff working in schools as well as students. And by the way, tapping is shown to help with test anxiety, with academic stress, and also with confidence for adolescents. So, just some things about students there. So you can look into what they have for educators and for schools. And then there's like a paid plan as well for more support from them for schools. And then the second resource I would direct you to is called EFT Universe. And this is from Dawson Church, who has done a lot of research and work in this field and other wonderful related things. And Dawson has some great books. And then also there's classes you can sign up for on the website where you can, work through tapping and some specific issues as well through those classes. So you can take a look at that as well. Okay, so, oh yeah, and then gosh, they both probably, but at least the tapping solution has images where it's going to show you where all those points are that I was describing or showing you so that you can go back through. I mean, it might take a little bit to like get the hang of it, but then it's just second nature and you don't even have to think about what are the points that I'm hitting. So hang with it until you get it down and it will become super easy, I promise. Um, and yeah, thank you so much for joining me about this. I think next time I'm probably going to share another tool that, like tapping, helps regulate the nervous system and helps with stress and fight or flight and kind of overwhelm or overload in the system. So I hope you will join me for that as well. And if you appreciate the content, I hope that you will like it and subscribe and follow. You can give an honest rating, tell friends who you think would benefit from information on self-care and well-being. Um, and all these things just helps more people find the content that I really hope will, be supportive for people right now. So thanks again for taking the time and take care. Bye bye.